Spider-Boy #1, written by Dan Slott. You end up having 2 stories, which I'll tell you right now. The first story, I think, is the place to be.
Yes,
the second
definitely.
story felt a little extraneous. You even said it's there to bump the price, which is unfortunate. But the first story's art is by Paco Medina. The second story, Balloonacy, art by Ty Templeton. And when we get to that, that's more of like a goofy... the whole play, even in the first bit, it's all for fun. It even has a little of a Silver Age kind of tinge to the villains involved, because you're not going to have real dark things, even though it does get a little darker than I thought it would. But you start out and you have Gutterball, which we kind of saw before, but you have Gutterball, who is the bowling alley villain.
We've seen him before, you're saying? I don't remember.
Yeah, I think that we saw him at the end of like the last thing that we had Spider-Boy in, that they were alluding to the fight that was going to happen here. That's why you end up here in this fight.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why he says, I told you, he may look silly, but it's this. So you end up where Gutterball there, and I mean, he's a guy with a bowling ball. He has his bowling shirt on, but he does have 2 pretty big guns. But they shoot out bowling pins.
They are shooting bowling pins. You're right.
But they are big guns. Like, he actually looks more threatening. But you're going to get some things, and depending on where you're coming into this, what you want, what to expect. If you have things like stay in your lane. Hey, what do you have, a hole in your head? Hey, luckily he got spared.
He's pinning people down. I like the bowling jokes. They're pretty funny.
And so what you have here, though, is the fun play where, and everybody always tells me, I have to be reminded all the time when I end up saying, oh my God, this, Spider-Man is too funny or too quick. Oh, he's known for that. So in this, Spider-Boy is trying to maybe keep up with Spider-Man. And they end up having a pun war that gets really ridiculous, but it's kind of fun as they take down this ridiculous villain, even when they punch him in the face, but he's got a bowling ball head, and then he kind of gets shoved through the wall, and they end up saving a bowling alley. That's what you're going to have Gutterball attack. They end up saving him. Everybody is hooting and hollering. Unfortunately, at one point, most of the credit goes to Spider-Man, while people are afraid of Spider-Boy, because there has been headlines in the Daily Bugle that Spider-Boy is a monster, he's a freak, and I thought that it was a weird play that they said he was a threat and not a menace, but then Spider-Man ends up going to the Daily Bugle and talks to Robbie and says, you sat there on your hands for the most point of when Jay Jonah was saying I was a menace. Don't do this to this kid. He's just a boy. And they're like, well, he is a monster. I'm like,
yeah, technically.
You end up having Spider-Man wants to rehabilitate Bailey's image of that. He says, can you give him the key to the city?
I'm not the mayor, Spidey.
Seriously. So you end up where this girl's there and says, oh, if she's from the bowling alley, we can give the key to the bowling alley. Everything is going to be smaller.
So wait, so this girl just couldn't get there fast enough to talk to the Daily Bugle about what happened?
She just zipped over there, right? I mean,
yeah, she's in a private meeting with the editor-in-chief about this.
It's a big exclusive. I'm like, what the heck? I mean, she really ran there quick. Spidey seems to, swing right over there. She's already there.
Yeah.
But you have this play again, I guess, things like where you have a Spider-Man book that has the big things going on. This is Spider-Boy. You're going to have littler things. So in this, they decide, well, we'll have a ceremony and we'll end up thanking Spider-Boy for saving the bowling alley, and we'll give him the key to the deal. And it was funny where they end up saying, we'll let him bowl for free. It's kind of goofy, but it works for just a Spider-Boy. Right away, I was thinking, does he get to eat for free? He asked the question.
He was asking, Can I play the games for free? Can I have the hot dogs for free?
He doesn't really want to bowl. He wants to play video games and eat nachos and hot dogs. And Peter's like, yeah, I don't know about that. You'll have to see. But they're going to have this ceremony, and Peter really wants to make it that you go alone. This is your thing. This is the way that you can end up making things better. And then we go to where Peter's trying to find Bailey, trying to go around town looking, goes to Feast because he has been with Aunt May, but he ends up finding out that he is off with his friend where they're staying with Christina Zoo, who is a family that he ended up saving in Spider-Verse. So they are allowing him to stay with them, and she knows his identity. And they make the joke, the idea, well, I was worried that you were the Spider-Boy Monstrosity, but then when you ended up unmasking and I saw you were Ginger, that's even worse. And they start laughing. It's all just good fun. And so that leads for Peter to come in. And again, there's going to be jokes where Dan Slott, you're going to get that eye roll of him trying to be funny by using the, hello, fellow kids. I'm like, all right, Dan, just stop. But they end up where Bailey ends up, hey, I told her my secret identity. He's like, dude, you've only been back for like not long at all. And you're already telling people, it's fine, it's okay. But he ends up finding out that he's going to end up being, the newest hero. He's going to get celebrated at this bowling alley. In the meantime, you need a villain, and we end up having Madame Monstrosity, a villain that fits this book. I mean, that's the thing about it. You're going to have goofy stuff. She is a woman who makes
monstrosities, yeah.
We find out that she actually made Spider-Boy. We actually get a bit of an origin deal where he was captured and he was turned into Spider-Boy. The thing is, though, she doesn't remember that because nobody remembers him. So when we get the flashback to the origin, it's a cool play. She's mad at first because she thinks that Bailey is like stealing her thunder. I make the hybrids. What is this kid doing? To then later find out she actually made him but doesn't remember. And that is a cool play.
Yeah, she saw him in the last issue. I think it was like, that's one of mine. But she couldn't remember where and why it happened.
Yeah, so that's a cool little play. And you end up where he's at the whole, this big ceremony at the bowling alley. And it's funny, they're going to give him a ceremonial bowling ball, but he thinks that it's Gutterball's head.
It looks like it.
It does. It looks just like it. It's a weird play. And he's like, did you behead Gutterball? And like almost presenting, here you go. And she's like, no, we would never do that. That's just a bowling ball. But then you end up having this Madame Monstrosity who's been trying to, figure out and find the Spider-Ball in that play of, I wish that there was just a way that we know exactly the time and place he'd be. Well, obviously, it's the ceremony and the attack is on, and you have this play where all of a sudden this big giant monster is going to attack everybody, and Bailey ends up recognizing this kid, Eli, from when he was made himself. So you go back and see that flashback. Now, Eli does not remember Bailey. And at one point, I think Bailey is actually worried that he thinks Eli's mad at him for kind of making the idea of what he becomes. He becomes a rhino-elephant combo. Yeah. They're there, and once you end up where Bailey gets turned into Spider-Boy.
And he's freaking out.
And this guy, Eli, who hasn't been turned into anything yet, tries to cheer him up. They're like, hey, did you hear that Madame Monstrosity made this combination of a duck and a cow? You know what they get? Milk and quackers. You get silly jokes like that, but it works for kids.
Yeah, it works because he starts cracking up. He doesn't worry about it anymore.
And then they start making up stuff together. Then at the end, you end up where you have Spider-Boy, who we don't know who his real mother is yet. He actually almost says something at one point at the bowling alley, but doesn't. But you end up where he then says, oh, you know what you get with an elephant and a rhinoceros? Me and my mom would play this game. You know what you get? Hell if I know. But that's the name. And I'm like, I don't know. That wasn't that great. I didn't laugh that much.
Elephant and a rhino, I guess.
Elephant and a rhino.
You gotta go with elephino. Don't pronounce the H.
Make it like British. Elephino.
Hello, love.
Hello, love. So you end up where that's said, and it's like, okay, it's just kind of forced to get what's going on because Madame Monstrosity comes in and goes, oh, that's interesting.
Well, that's a good idea.
2 animals. I think I'll do this with Eli. So you end up Bailey yelling, I was just joking. Don't do that. Don't do that. But that's what he ended up getting turned into. And that's who's attacking. Hell if I know. So you end up where, of course, we're going to get Christina say, Spider-Boy, who is this guy? Hell if I know. Well, if you don't know, why'd you say? Like, we're going to get, who's on first going on, right? So you end up where it's kind of a cool play because you think that Bailey thinks, oh my God, he's still mad at me, kind of making what he became, but he doesn't remember him. He doesn't remember him. So as they're fighting, he is being controlled by Madame Monstrosity, and Madame Monstrosity wants to see if, in fact, Bailey is one of her creations. And the way you can see is by these barcodes on the back of their neck. That is actually shown. You end up where Hell if I know picks up Bailey and then pulls the mask from behind. And you end up seeing that barcode. And she's like, yeah, it is one of mine, but I don't remember that. But Bailey remembers, or at least says, Eli, you don't have to do this. And hell if I know, Eli, how do you know my name? Like, what's going on? And so he's taken aback by that. And then you end up, because he doesn't remember, Bailey was erased. So he says, just don't worry about it. you're not a monster. I know you're not a monster. Don't let her make it. Yeah, we look like monstrosities, but you don't have to be bad like this. And ends up having that controlling and the camera deal where he rips it off of Eli and smashes it and says, I know everybody's forgotten me, but I know you're better than this. So he ends up actually letting Spider-Boy go. Spider-Boy runs away as you have Madam Monstrosity yelling through that device like, is he there? Did you get him? Are you bringing him back? And he's like, no, he turned into a bunch of spiders and got away. And I do like where Madam Monstrosity goes like, he can do that? Man, I'm pretty good. I just think that's like a play of like, yeah, pretty good. I must have done that back in the day, but they can't remember her. But that's the big play in this, is that you end up where there's this hell if I know runs off. And this Christina comes up and says, oh my God, are you going to be able to take that monster down? That's your villain. Are you going to be able to? And he goes, I'm not going to take him down. I want to save him. And it ends nice. I mean, if the issue itself ended right there, and yeah, the price point would have to be lower.
Well, why would he take him down, though? I mean, it is his friend. He's right. Like, he doesn't remember him, but Bailey remembers him.
Yeah, Bailey remembers. I don't think that Christina knows, the background.
And also, an elephant and a rhino is just an elephant with 2 extra tusks on it. So
it does say he has thick skin.
Yeah, I guess. The elephants have thick skin, too. I mean,
it was all for that joke.
Yeah.
But overall, if it ended there, I'm already like, all right, I like this. I'm going to continue reading it. Then you get and I'm not saying the backup is horrible. What I'm saying is just the backup just felt like I've already had the story that I kind of was wanting. And okay, I got some background. It feels kind of cool. And then it just kind of feels like it drags on a bit because of this Balloonacy backup, and there's a slight art change. I don't love the art as much.
Bailey looks a lot younger in this too, smaller and
it
weird.
Seems like the backup will be more of just maybe solo adventures, team ups, even with other characters as Bailey just goes and does this.
I like it because it has a Thanksgiving theme to it too, which is kind of what's going on now. So
you have a Thanksgiving Day parade going on in New York City, and Christina takes him out to see all the balloons and all the people. And as they are going, he says, hey, let me, get my costume on and let's get us up on the top of the building because we can watch these, the parade better. And Squirrel Girl's there and they're having fun. And a balloon comes up and he grabs it. You get to see his one power. He doesn't have a spidey sense of danger to him. If he touches objects, he can see if other people are in danger, a premonition type deal, which Squirrel Girl thinks is great. And he ends up where, oh no, it's the balloon man who is up to no good. He sees that. So they go down, and the balloon man's goofy. I like that he's this guy who has to have a helium helmet on, but he talks really. It doesn't play out as well on the page that he's talking as if he's got helium, so he's got
that's
that
just funny because
voice.
Everybody's making fun of his voice, but Bailey's like, don't do that. He's sensitive about that.
And Bailey seems to be the only one who really knows this guy and remembers him and says, this guy's deadly.
He's as bad as Magneto. He just controls gases instead.
So he controls gases, but the way he does it is through these like balloon animals and the wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube men that come out of the sewers. You have all that going. So it is funny. But when the gases end up like Squirrel Girl says, I can take care of this. Her and the squirrels start popping all the balloons, but they have gases in them. They have laughing gas and sleep gas and things. She ends up getting laughing gas and is like, this is the worst thing ever as she's laughing. Oh no, we're all going to die. And she's laughing. And he's like, I told you, you can't do this. So they end up kind of solving it by getting these balloon animals, these little things, and end up, hey, we're just going to end up, getting static electricity. We'll connect them to the wall here. We won't pop them, but we'll deal with them later. But the big play is that this polymer X, it gets a little wacky. It gets a little too much. The idea that he let this gas out that then ends up making all of the big giant parade balloons like Hyperion there. You end up where they can't be popped, and now they're his inflatable giant balloon
like
army.
Stay Puffed Marshmallow type
you have the but all the classics there are going to go, and now these things are kind of coming to life, and now they're going to attack. It's just goofy, but like I said, it ends up feeling like it may be a couple pages too long. I guess they had like a page count they needed to get to charge $6, and they had to get to that. But at the end, it's so goofy and so ridiculous. It's fun enough, but by the end, I'm like, all right, I kind of need less of this and more of the let's save my friend, Madame Monstrosity, all that going on with even Eli Helafino and stuff like that, or Helafino. I want to say Fino. But by the end, I still like this. I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was a pretty good start. It's non-offensive if people thought that it was just going to be over the top, just bad. I think this is one of those books, if you like, all ages feel, like having fun, like having kid heroes. A lot of people don't, but I do. So I did like this. How about you? What would you give it?
8.5 for me. I'm
an 8.5 as well.
He's a good addition to the Spider-Man family, and Slott does a good with like weaving in his backstory and keeping it kind of mysterious, not laying it all out there to begin with, which I like.
Yeah, and at this point, I like that he has this own book here where you can develop them. If you're not into it, you don't have to read it. But if you do, you can have some fun. And I think it, like I said earlier, it has that like Super Sons feel, has that all ages type feel that I do like. And I like having these books as an option to just everything big and dark.
Yeah, it's not like you don't have to do homework to read it. You don't have to like obsess over what's going on.
It's just for fun.
You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.